What life has proven to me again and again is that our natural intuition can help us to have natural spiritual awakenings. Plural, awakenings. We don't just wake up once. Every day we wake up. And it's possible to keep waking up, falling asleep, waking up spiritually. I'm sure you've seen it too. Yes, some people have dramatic awakenings that permanently seem to alter their sense of self, their relationship with the world. But many of us tend to go through, at least from what I've seen working with many beautiful students and clients over many decades, tend to have this sense of getting it, losing it, getting it, losing it. You experience yourself as more, you gain insight, you have those, what I call wisdom revolutions inside, where you're suddenly seeing from a deeper place of peace and love. And then Monday happens. Sound effects are optional, and we seem to lose it. Your intuition, my intuition, our natural intuition, the same intuition that nudges you, that inner voice, that little voice, however you call it, that seems to happen randomly, perhaps when we're relaxed, that nudges us here and there. That intuition can be harnessed, can be upgraded, can help us to call on many awakenings, to deepen the bigger spiritual awakening. So come with me on a little journey through this story and see how this lands for you and what you can take from it today. Because these videos are in service to our awakening, not in an egoic Hollywood fashion, but so that we can harvest wisdom and bring it into our ordinary lives. I'm sitting on a rock in the intense heat of a patch of wilderness just outside of Chennai. My husband and I were invited to a retreat by a very good friend who used to be a Dasajian monk. And one of the exercises for the day, with very little instruction, was to take a bunch of us out into a little open area in nature, quite sparse, quite dry, and suddenly just leave us there. And everybody was meant to be silent. It was meant to be a quiet, reflective time. And I'm laughing because it was amusing. We were a bunch of Westerners or people from different parts of the world, some dignitaries, some people from various positions. My husband and I, we were all dressed in white because that was part of the instructions for our retreat. All, and this is me projecting, but all trying to be very spiritual because we'd come to India for this retreat of meditation. And now we were suddenly in this dry, dusty spot, sweating in our white clothes, our white robes, trying to not feel awkward, avoiding each other's eye contact. Again, that was how I was feeling, but trying to be very spiritual. And I saw a nice gray rock, and I thought, let me go and sit on the rock, because I mean, what else was there to do? So I'm sitting on the rock and I'm looking into the distance, as one should do in a deep, be spiritual moment. And in the distance there are these beautiful blue shade mountains, as mountains look when they're far. They go bluey, purpley. And so I'm looking into the distance in a very spiritual way, whatever that means. And luckily I've learned to catch myself, at least sometimes. And I caught this trying. And have you noticed that when we're trying to be spiritual, your ego is fully in charge, trying to look spiritual, trying to sound spiritual, trying to act spiritual. And I'm teasing us, right? Because the intention can come from a beautiful place. There is a deep longing for more than this human thing, right? It's because we're tired, because we're suffering. So I'm not immune to the deeper pain that drives the spiritual longing. I'm intimately aware of what it feels like to cry myself to sleep with that kind of existential longing. But that longing is the real thing. That's the vulnerable salt in the wound real. Compare that to the acting spiritual, to the trying to appear spiritual, which intention could be because I think if I look the part, I'll discover what I think gurus and teachers and wise beings that have spoken before will discover. I want what they want, what they have, what they look like they have. So there can be all these reasons, but let's just agree that it's probably a good idea to spot when we're trying. Because as a friend and colleague of mine that's worked with me for over 20 years, Shan, has said often, trying is lying. She sounds very Yoda-ish, not intending to, but yes, trying is lying. So I caught myself trying to be spiritual. And it's eating a bit of humble pie to swallow and go, no, cold. Yeah, let's just drop that trying to be spiritual in our white robes, sitting in this baking heat in India, on a spiritual retreat. So I stopped trying to be spiritual and instead pulled my attention back from these lofty mountains. And in the dropping of the trying, in the ordinary moment of our daily lives, time and time again, life has proven this to me. Has it proven it to you? It is in the ordinary. It is in the gray rock, the gray scratchy rocks, the ordinary moments of being human, of looking in the mirror and not liking what we see, of facing our financial stress, of doom scrolling online and feeling overwhelmed by the news and the insanity of the world and feeling like life keeps shaking the snow globe. You know what I mean, don't you? Of the tension at the dinner table, of the rub of the salt in the wound, of being triggered by relationships, of the incredible difficulties we face when we care for loved ones and watch them suffer, when we are parents and feel our hearts walking around in the form of our children, vulnerable, and this insanely difficult thing being human. The grey rocks, the ordinary that we're trying to escape, aren't we, by trying to be spiritual? Thinking that if we take the postures and do the lofty, and I know this is pushing and rubbing an edge here, and it's a good edge to be challenged on. At least I've found this for myself. It's a little bit of honesty. It's uncomfortable perhaps, but it's in those ordinary moments that there's the opportunity. When we're willing to drop the masks of spiritual, when we're willing to put aside the trying. And I did that day just then look at the rock. Yeah. So, and in this ordinary moment, let's say here's a teaching opportunity, here's an insight, that you might find useful. You've, I'm sure, noticed that when we relax into the ordinary moment, no matter how uncomfortable it is, sometimes we might notice that there's an ordinary stream of thoughts, what I call the torture chamber or the sports commentator mind or the surface mind. Pick one. And it seems to move between them, yeah? Sometimes torturing, sometimes just rambling, chattering, commenting on everything. And other times we can just be more labeling of the surface mind. And the surface mind streams thoughts, doesn't it? And then every now and then we call it intuition. Sometimes we call it an inner teacher, the highest Sat Guru, inner teacher. We give it all sorts of names, but it really just is like changing radio stations, where there is another stream of thoughts that has a different texture to it. The other stream of thoughts seems to be more peaceful, doesn't try to grab the microphone like the surface egoic thoughts do. True? And if we've slowed down enough, if we've dropped some of the trying enough, and if we're listening and willing and open, those other thoughts can be known. So the other radio station can suddenly move from static to clear. And the thoughts sound just like us, but the texture of them is different, isn't it? The quality of, like as if listening to a different kind of music and noticing that our bodies respond differently to these thoughts. But if we're too busy trying, if we're too busy focusing on the mountains, focusing on the external, focusing on trying, we will miss these opportunities. And I'm sitting on this gray rock, and these simpler thoughts, which I've come to realize are the translation of true seeing, which I call wisdom, simply is the nudge to notice what's right here. Notice the rock. Instead of trying to be spiritual, Cole, notice the rock. And I promise you, it's an ordinary rock. Okay, but the story is going to get a little less ordinary, let's say. So I'm noticing the rock, and I'm putting my hand on the rock, and my surface mind commentator is doing what it does best, just commenting on, rock. Feels like a rock. It's scratchy, a little uncomfortable, especially as I'm sitting in this robe in the heat. Hey, there's a little spider. Oh, should I be scared of the spider? Am I supposed to notice the spider? You're very familiar with the surface mind too, I'm sure. Comments. And luckily, I've also learned to hear the surface thoughts, notice them, but not be as interested in them as the gentler, softer, subtler thoughts. And you'll see even when I'm speaking and teaching and then slow. So I'm paying attention to the rock And the nudge is to just place my hand on the rock and to notice. And I'm going to say that there needs to be a willingness to discover. Because if I believe my surface mind, I'm going to label it rock. And I always say our minds, you'll hear me use these metaphors again and again. It's good to hear them more than once. Sticky notes. My mind, your mind, is very, very good at putting sticky notes. And the sticky note is the surface mind's label for things. So my sticky note would be rock. It's just a rock. Now, if we stop there, we miss everything. There's nothing wrong with the surface mind doing its job. Surface mind does its job, and its job is to help us navigate this world, this 3D, dense, biology-centered world, so that I can know this is my office and I can communicate. This is my office. There's my camera. There's my screen. There's my rock. I can point at rock and everyone goes, oh, I understand what you mean, rock. But if we stay there, then our intuition is only tuned in to the sticky note. Because wherever your attention is, that's what you're tuned into. That's what I've learned over decades of pushing intuition, of testing it, of putting it up against my intellect and skeptical, discerning mind. If we stay with the label, with the thought, rock, we only tune in to the thought and we miss the real rock. We miss everything. We miss the real. We miss reality. And all awakening is waking up from false to real. Think about it. I'm dreaming, it's not real. I wake, oh, it's real. This metaphor that is used, this word that is used, these ordinary awakenings are the moments in our ordinary life, our natural awakening process, where in that moment, we see things differently. One moment we were seeing sticky notes and suffering from separation sickness because we believed the sticky note and we believe, oh, wrong way around, sticky note. Like there, rock, okay, rock, surface mind, commenting. What's so big deal about noticing the rock? Hand is on rock. Willingness to discover. Willingness to notice. Willingness to be wrong about what my mind believes. That's what openness means. Openness means I am willing to discover and I'm willing to be wrong. How many of us are willing to discover and willing to be wrong? That's why the snow globe shakes. So we cling to our sticky notes. And then we were saying, well, maybe I should put the sticky note down. Maybe I should put what the mind tells me is right down for a moment. So I have my hand on the rock and I settle into an ordinary noticing and being willing to be wrong and being willing to be interested and just being interested in whatever shows up, which is being comfortable in the unknown of it. Perhaps I don't know what this rock is, perhaps. And in that simple, ordinary moment, hand touching a scratchy, itchy rock, mind worrying about the little luminous spider that seems to have disappeared somewhere. So this simple, ordinary noticing, very hard to put in words, as all of our awakenings are often hard to put in words. True? Hard to communicate without feeling like we sound crazy. And yet I believe this is a better kind of crazy than the world's crazy, don't you think? Because in that moment, there is no rock, There is no coal. There is no slightly large woman sitting in the middle of this hot space, sweating in her white robes, trying to be spiritual. There is just love, not romantic love, not separation sickness born craving that we can call love. This knowing, this clear seeing that there is no rock, there is no coal, there is just love, that the rock is made of love, that even my hand can feel the music, metaphor music of love, feels like love. And there's this, oh my gosh, it's all made of love. Oh my gosh, it's all made of love. It's all made of love. And then my mind steps in. What just happened? Commentator comes back online and the love is gone and it's back to a scratchy rock and I'm back to coal. And then mind panics like, what happened? Where did it go? Then I try to feel it again. Try to feel it again, try to feel it. And then I laugh at myself. There's me trying again. I go back to just relax. Relax, tune in, be interested, feel, notice, be willing. And there it is. Again, love that I can feel with my nervous system. That even my nervous system seems to be responding, tangible, noticing, knowing. And then my friend, our friend the monk, calls us, and I have to get up, and we're walking silently back. And I'm pondering this, and I'm trying to make sense. And when you've tried to make sense of your epiphanies and your awakenings, isn't it true that you've got this contrast, yes, between the surface mind that is your inner student learning from the deeper inner teacher that has brought something forward? You're reconciling the reality of what your biology and your sticky notes will tell you about what is real versus the reality that you have gotten a glimpse of or deep seeing of, and you're trying to reconcile the two. You're probably also concerned about your sanity because you look around and you realize, hey, did anyone else notice the rock? And excuse the humor, right? But it's like no one else, or perhaps it seems that not many people seem to be seeing what you are seeing. And you would have had your different experiences. This is just a whole story. You've got your own stories. When we went back to the campus, I was on a mission to check, was that a special rock? Was that like an India sacred rock? Because I thought, well, it's a possibility. Yeah, and I do think there are places and spaces that help to amplify this deeper seeing. I do believe that is true. So yes, but what the surface mind can then do is stick a label on it and separate from it and then think, I need the rock to have that again. So I'm very, very pleased that life showed me something else. Because then later that day, sitting in the meditation hall on plastic chairs, I get the inner intuitive nudge to touch the chair and do the same, which is relax and notice. And my surface mind says, this is going to prove to me that the rock, which is natural, is different to the chair that is plastic, and this is going to be good. This is going to be good. So I touch the chair I'm sitting on, an ordinary plastic chair, expecting to get a lovely contrast. And oh my word, oh my gosh, it feels like love. It feels like love. So I spent the next day or two touching things. Flew back to South Africa after 10 days, came home, checked whether things that were here in South Africa felt the same way that they did in India. And they, of course, did. There wasn't. And this is not to say there aren't sacred places, right? I'm not saying that. But the deeper truth, the deeper awakening was that it's all made of the same stuff, ultimately. And yes, nature has a profound song of truth. It's less cluttered by sticky notes. But if we strip everything down, we might wake up to there's the same stuff underneath all the stuff. There's the same stuff underneath all the stuff. So, my beautiful, if you feel like you have no choice, that natural awakening is happening in many awakenings or in big and small awakenings, lean into your natural intuition, which is simply call back attention from all the sticky notes. Be willing to discover. Be willing to be wrong. And make this a beautiful experiment in discovering how your true eyes see as your true eye, which is wisdom, which in other metaphor language that I use means that you can build a wisdom well anywhere, to send your bucket down, to harvest wisdom from every ordinary moment, to drink from the wisdom of clear seeing and clear being in ordinary moments. And that's how we together create a wisdom revolution. A wisdom revolution in our own eyes and in our own eye, in our own lives, to do what we are here to do, to heal separation, sickness, and the damage and the pain and the struggle of what that causes, to teach even our biology a way to see, a way to be, to change, to upgrade, to remember what it can mean to be human. That's my invitation to you. That's what this channel is for. I have another channel where I teach master coaches to build wisdom wells for others. But this channel is for this inner work. This channel is for those that feel, I know there is more. I know that I am not just this little separate creature fighting for scraps. For those that are interested in waking up and awakening in an ordinary, non-Hollywood, as in not ego-grandized way, and drinking from our own well so that we can see for ourselves instead of relying on other wells, on teachers and teachings, because your world needs your wisdom. Thank you.